Hey there, Libra, and welcome to your May 2020 Creativity Tarot reading. My name is Kayleigh Jean, and welcome to my channel. I record these readings for artists, entrepreneurs, and anyone who is working on their personal growth, self-expression, or spirituality in any form. So if those areas of life are important for you, I encourage you to go ahead and keep listening. I also want to point out that you can use this reading for your sun, moon, or your rising sign, and it's also possible if sometimes none of them resonate, especially in the beginning of the month. A lot of times what I hear from people is that the reading may not make that much sense at the beginning of the month, but if they come back at the end of the month, it typically does start to ring a lot more bells. So if you want to experiment with that, I encourage you to go ahead and come back to this video at the end of May. Okay, Libra, so while I was tuning in for you, I got a couple of different impressions. One of them was almost of someone kind of looking at what's been going on in their life, and maybe, because my readings focus so much on entrepreneurship and creativity, it could be recent events in your business or recent events in your creativity, projects that you're working on, your professional life as well. There could be like this impression of feeling like something isn't going quite to plan, or this feeling of not necessarily frustration, but it's a feeling of like trying to almost kind of fit a square peg into a round hole in a way, or trying to figure out like the way to kind of go from here. And this may not be only specific to Libras. A lot of people globally are dealing with economic issues that they haven't necessarily seen before, or that they didn't necessarily create themselves. So how could they have really planned for it? A lot of what's going on right now, I mean, all of it was very unexpected, right? So it's likely that some of you guys could be dealing with that, but I feel like this is more unique to your situation than just the events of COVID-19. I feel like it's more having to do with individuals maybe that you are working with, or individuals that you are networked with, or maybe even individuals that you're in, different types of relationships with. And the feeling that I get is almost like I'm feeling as if Spirit is asking me to ask you this question of, if you could kind of step outside your body for a minute and receive the ultimate guidance or the ultimate truth from your higher self. And if that truth essentially was that every single seemingly mistake, every single seeming failure, every single seeming like cog or spoke that gets messed up in the machinery of your life, or every single shift in plans, every curveball, if you could know for absolute certain that every single curveball that has come your way ever in your entire life was the absolute perfect thing for you to have had happen to you at that time, how would that change your emotional state right now? So I know that that was a really wordy way of asking this, but basically, if you could receive absolute certainty that every single failure, mistake, curveball was actually in your best interest, and that you responded and reacted to it with the best absolute way that you could have at that time, given the knowledge and understanding that you had, would that change how you're feeling about your journey right now? Because I think that you need to add a little bit more of that perspective, which is admittedly a little bit more of a trust-based perspective, or a little bit more of a faith-based perspective in life. But I feel like that's what you need to hear right now, Libra. And I don't even get the sense that you're feeling that negative or even that frustrated. I just think that there's this message coming through that you're almost telling yourself that something is a bad thing, when it actually is going to ultimately end up being transformed into something that helps you grow and helps you evolve and helps you prioritize. So I think that there's something here about actually, instead of looking at life and trying to make your life attractive to you in the way that you see fit, it's almost like stepping back from the events of your life, even just for a moment, and actually seeing the true beauty that already exists within your life. So you might be telling yourself things should be different, or I was working to make something happen in a different way, and it's not taking on that vision right now. But if you step a little bit further outside of yourself and that current perspective that you may have, you're going to see that there's actually so much beauty and so much growth and so much perfection actually in the situation itself. So that's really the message, the main message. And the other last thing that I want to say is that in the meditation, I also was being given this feeling that someone's going to come to you asking for help or asking for support in some way. And I think that it really is up to you. It's up to your own judgment. I think that you're going to probably feel like a knee-jerk desire to help that person, whether it's financial or circumstantial or, you know, just some other way that you could be charitable towards another human being. But the message that was coming through, and this might be just for like one person out there, but just in case, you know, pay attention, it might be you. The message is you don't have to help the person in the exact way that they're asking, right? Like your immediate knee-jerk reaction might be to just say yes because you see that they are in need, like that they are in need of some support, and you, very nice, gracious Libra, you want to step in and help. But I think that there's something here about you really pausing and saying, you know, let me think about it. And it's totally fine to say no because it may not make sense for you at this moment in time to overextend yourself. You might have to put on your own air mask first, right? Like when you get on a plane and they are going through the safety information, they always say you need to put your own air mask on first, because if you don't, you run the risk of you losing oxygen while you're trying to put the mask on someone else, and then you both don't have enough oxygen. And that can lead to a really bad problem. And same thing if you're rescuing somebody who's drowning, right? If you're a lifeguard, you don't actually go right up to the person who's drowning and like grab a hold of them. Most of the time, you have to kind of try and push them into a safer place, almost like with your leg or something, so that you're not letting them just latch onto you, because if they do, they can be in such a panic that they can bring you both down and then you can both drown. So again, I'm not saying this to be negative, but it is a message that was coming through spiritually when I was connecting to your sign, so I have to say it, is that, you know, this can be serious. You know, if you overextend yourself when your heart and your intuition and your gut instinct is telling you that this isn't maybe the right time to do that, that can be problematic, not only just for, you know, you, but also the other person may not be able to, in the end, get the help they need, and that would really support them in becoming more self-supporting and sovereign within the situation that they're in right now. So be mindful about how you help others. Definitely do the work that you want to do and be helpful in the ways that you feel that you can, that will still leave something for yourself to be strong. You definitely don't want to compromise your own ability to fend for yourself. You don't want to compromise your own emotional well-being and mental well-being as well. So just keep that in mind, that it's okay to be a little bit more creative. Let's say somebody comes to you asking for money. You might not give them the money, but you might give them something else. You might give them a little bit of your time, or you might give them a solution, or you might come back with some ideas, or help them research how to get a loan, for example, from a bank. So it could be something along those lines where it doesn't have to be exactly what they're asking for, but you can still be a loving and helpful and strengthening presence. So that was a lot of channeled information for you, Libra, but I had to say it. Libra, 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 spirits, please give us clear, loving guidance for Libra, Libra, Libra. And we're also going to get you a Bob Ross message. So let's take a look at your cards, Libra. So we've got Lamb as the path and the Owl as the influence. So this is really beautiful. The colors of these cards is really standing out to me. And the first thing that I get is that both of these creatures are kind of symbolic of a certain, like, a certain, I want to say openness, a certain purity of spirit, a certain clarity. You know, with the owl, it represents kind of a clarity of intellect, a clarity of the mind, a clarity of vision. And with the lamb, it's a clarity of being, right? A clarity of your natural ability to relate to life in a very authentic way. The lamb is a card of being very unguarded, right? And so that can be a good thing when we're very open. We can be very psychic, very intuitive. We can have very strong impressions. We can be very spiritually tuned in, as seems to be, you know, the symbolism here of the diamond above the head. It's like there's this very clear vibration, a very strong and very high vibration above the lamb's head, because it's a very open and very pure creature. It's like it's totally unprotected, but that can also be an issue, right? When we're not really thinking about how to protect ourselves, you know, when we're in that very kind of open, sensitive, empathetic place, that can also be a challenge, which is, I think, why we have the owl crossing it, because the owl is a creature of prey. So the owl knows what's best for the owl, and the owl is willing to hunt. The owl is willing to, obviously very motivated to embrace its own animal instincts and think for itself, and they are solitary creatures. I mean, you do hear them sometimes hanging out with other owls, but they have this kind of symbolic sense of keeping their wits about them and kind of having this sort of solemn and very like prescient, very wise, very aware consciousness that is willing to be predatory when it needs to be, right? And so I think that this is where the self-protection comes in, because you're going to be feeling quite connective this month in May. And this kind of makes sense because on the 7th, we do have the Scorpio full moon, which is in your second house. You have a full moon in the second house. It's going to be highlighting themes of resources and themes of money, finances, possessions. It's a kind of an earthy house in that way. And so having the full moon there is definitely going to be bringing to the surface aspects of, you know, fairness when it comes to money, aspects of how well organized financial aspects of your life are. And I think that it does actually kind of fit with the meditation message now that I'm thinking about it and with these cards. But the really good news with the owl, though, is that this is an owl of prosperity. In this deck, it is said to be the snowy owl that accompanies the goddess Lakshmi, who is the goddess of prosperity and luck and just brings essentially blessings. So with this energy, I do think it's very possible for you to see some improvements or some stabilization in the financial area of your life, especially with that full moon there in the beginning of the month. And I think that you're probably going to feel like there is some good that you can do with your own resources. And I think that there's also going to be maybe some thought this month about how to organize your financial house in a sense. And that could be something that's exciting to you. But I also think it's going to be something where you want to be very much like turned on to the details with it, because it's possible that you could feel with the Lamb card, like there could be a sense of a little bit of underappreciation of the protective attitude towards money, possessions, what you have. Like self-preservation can be a very balanced and very healthy attitude. And that's what I'll say about that. So let's take a look at your cards. We've got the Queen of Wands and the Chariot, Ten of Swords and the World, Nine of Swords and the Seven of Pentacles, Nine of Pentacles and the Queen of Cups. There's that money coming in, you know, and that seems to be in the second half of May as well. So definitely some good financial energy for you, Libras. I'm excited for you for that. There could be in the beginning of the month with the Queen of Wands and the Chariot, there's like an overall sense of passion and forward motion in the first week of May. And I think that this is going to be a time that you're going to be benefited by being pretty enthusiastic. Some of you may be branching out from your normal way that you kind of make your way in the world. You could, and again, this depends on what the restrictions are in your area, but you could be traveling for some reason with the Chariot card. You could be getting out of your normal habitat or your normal situation, your normal mode of being, right? And I think that this is giving you a lot to think about. There's a sense of growth, of very dynamic growth in the first week of May. So that would be a really good time for you to start something new, to share or market or promote a new business, for example, in that first week of May. I think all of the actions that you take in the first week of May towards your business or towards your creative project, whatever it is, are going to be very energizing for you. And there could be some people kind of backing you up as well. It could be a fire sign person, or even maybe a Cancer as well. So, but these could also be aspects of you, Libra. So you're just feeling kind of enthusiastic, feeling ready to go, ready to invest in yourself as well. With that full moon in the second house, it can be about like self-investing, investing in the self. By the second week of May, we have the 10 of Swords and the World. So there's definitely an ending of some kind in the second week of May, and I'm not sure exactly what this is. It could be like for some of you with the 10 of Swords and the World, it can feel like the end of a long process, which has at different points been a little stressful for you. Because with the 10 of Swords, the swords are the most kind of mentally challenging suit, right? They give us anxiety, they give us worries. And the 10 being like the ultimate numbered card of the Swords suit kind of gives us this impression of like, yes, it's an ending, but it is an ending to a long and perhaps arduous process. And so in that sense, it can almost bring this feeling of, like just a big sigh of relief. So that can definitely be the way that you could be feeling about it. You could also have mixed feelings about it, whatever it is, in the second week of May. But with the World card, it's really giving me this feeling that whatever is coming to a close, it has been a real journey of growth for you, because the World is the last card of the major arcana. So the major arcana for me represents, and among many other things, the process of individuation of an individual psyche. So when you reach the World, ideally, you are much more integrated and whole within yourself. And this is saying essentially that like a period of time that caused you to grow and individuate and integrate yourself in to a much greater degree is actually done. And that's good. It's like graduation. You're like graduating from a life lesson in that second week of May. There's a period of, I want to say, a little bit of like uncertainty, or I would almost say purgatory, in the third week of May. And I say purgatory, I know that has a lot of negative connotations, but it's just the first word that came to my mind. What I mean here is there's not, most likely there's not going to be a ton of action going on in your life in the third week of May that's going to be giving you that proof of concept that you want. So for example, if you are launching something like an online program, let's say, the third week of May, you could see your like process with that launch almost kind of plateau, or you might be feeling a little bit concerned that you're not going to be able to make the project worth all of the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into it. So the third week of May, there's this sense of like continue working, right? Continue putting one foot in front of the other and try and relax, because the payoff is going to come in the last week of May, but you're expecting it to come sooner than that for some reason, because you've got the 9 of Swords, which is a card of like worry, anxiety, resistance, and then we have the 7 of Pentacles, which is like, but just keep showing up here. You might be a little frustrated with a particular growth process. You might be feeling like you want things to be moving faster, or that you want some kind of confirmation. I almost feel like you want a kudos, or you want someone to acknowledge what you're doing. And that may not necessarily be happening in that third week, but this is where mastery happens, right? Like mastery happens when you keep doing the thing that's difficult, right? Mastery happens when you keep showing up even without the fanfare, even without the accolades, even without the financial reward. When you keep showing up and putting one foot in front of the other no matter what, you communicate subconsciously to your unconscious mind that yes, life may be difficult. Life may sometimes feel like a slog, but you're also competent, Libra. You are competent enough to show up and climb one foot at a time over that hill, right? And I think that that's something that is really a big part of our soul's growth in this lifetime is, you know, we get challenged so much by life. We get challenged left and right, and it's pretty insane the degree to which we can be challenged by our life. But one of the best things that we can do throughout all of those challenges is we have this immense ability to regenerate ourselves. We have this immense ability to keep getting up. And I think that that's what this week is about for you. It's like, yeah, you might be worried. You might not know. You might not have the confirmation yet from the universe, but it's coming. Because in the third or the fourth week, which is that Gemini new moon is going to be in trine to your sign, which is super, super nice. And that's on May 22nd. So that kind of separates the third week from the fourth week. So you could interestingly start to feel a lot of new energy coming in around that Gemini new moon. I actually really like that new moon. I think it's going to be a really beautiful time for all of us. And I think for you, you're no exception to that. So by the fourth week of May, the energy definitely shifts, and you're starting to feel like you are able to rise within the current circumstances. Like she's in this garden, right? That represents her circumstances, and she's surrounded by fertility. She's surrounded by resources. She's surrounded by supportive elements. And I think that that is a mindset for you, Libra. I think it's a mindset of look at the abundance around us. You know, even when the world is going through really crazy times, even when there's so much uncertainty, look at everything that we've built so far and look at how much better off we're doing now than we have during other times like the Great Depression. You know, look at what we have access to. Look at what's possible. And I think that when you look at this, look at life in this way, you are intuitively, because it's the Queen of Cups, you're intuitively taking actions that help to build that serenity around you. And also in practical terms, this could be when the money comes in, right, at the end of the month. This could be when you start to really see, because the Nine of Pentacles is about sovereignty. It's about your own business or your own path. It's about your own journey, essentially. She's not like having to ask anybody else for permission in the Nine of Pentacles. She's doing it herself with the Falcon, which represents her higher mind. So through utilizing the power of your higher mind, and through checking in with yourself and through working passionately on your mindset in the last week of May, I think that you can make a lot of things happen for yourself. And it might be something really big and profound, and it could be just little things like maybe meeting your income goal that week, or being able to support a friend because you are in a situation to do that, like we saw earlier, but you're doing it obviously in the way that you know is right for you, as opposed to just, you know, flattening your own necessity in favor of other people. But like when you have that ability to help other people because you have been doing your own work, I think that that is also a very empowering thing. And with the Queen of Cups, you know, I think that this could also be a water sign person in your life, or if you have some water in your chart somewhere, Libra, this could also be you. But again, it's like, it's a very creative new path that's opening up for you. It's a very creative and very soulful and sensitive path that has practical and maybe even financial ramifications for you. So let's take a look at your Bob Ross message. Okay, so he says, let's put a few little highlights in here just to make them little rascals just sparkle in the sun. Just to make them little rascals just sparkle in the sun. So yeah, this is about bringing in that awareness of, I want to say, yeah, like the highlights of your life. And I think this kind of matches with the 9 of Pentacles message. You might be feeling like you're sort of optimistic in spite of like a lot of the chatter that's going on around you or that you're seeing online. And I think there's almost this sort of chuckle, like a cosmic chuckle with these cards, and the Bob Ross message too is like, you can make your life shine a little bit more, you can make it sparkle a little bit more by being a little bit more lighthearted about it. And also going back to that initial meditation message of like, what would change about your emotional state if you really genuinely could know for certain that every mistake that you thought you made was actually perfect for you and exactly what you needed at the time? How would that change things? Because I think that in this context, what this is saying is that it would change things so that you would feel more lighthearted about everything that you're doing and everything that's going on. And that's in turn going to create beneficial cycles for you when it comes to your health, because when we're stressed and we're thinking negative thoughts, we have so many different, like a cascade of hormonal things occur in our actual physical body. Emotions are not just like psycho-spiritual or like psychological. Emotions are physiological and they affect our physiology. So I think what this is saying is like finding that way to authentically slip into that understanding of faith and that understanding and that knowledge. It's not even just faith or trusting, but it's like knowing that you can embrace the full vision, you know, of your life, both the highlights and the shadows. And in that process, you can start to bring in a little bit more sparks of joy because you're not trying to hide from anything, because you know deep down that it's all good. Like it's all there for you. So I hope these messages have somehow helped you, Libra. I hope this gives you something optimistic or something useful in a practical sense as you go forward into the month of May. I'm sending you tons of love and light. I hope that you have an amazing month. I will put the information below for the Astro Self-Care, Lunar Self-Care course. I'm calling it Moon Mapping, which is a mixture of homeopathy, spirituality, and my personal self-care practices. That will be below as well. So if you want to check that out, definitely look into that. That's starting on the full moon in Scorpio. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here on my channel, Libra. I love reading for you guys. I feel so much connection to you. I have a really late Virgo rising, but the majority of my first house is in Libra, and I have some activity there as well in the sign. So I feel like a lot of kinship with you guys every month, and I just love reading for you. You always have like the easiest energy to read for. It's just very soothing even for me as the reader. So thank you guys for that. And definitely give this video a thumbs up if you want to say thank you. And you can also leave me a comment below. Leave me like a little red heart emoji if you want to just let me know that you're with me. I always love getting comments like that. And if you don't have emojis, you can just write the word hearts with an exclamation mark. Those kind of comments really do show me there's this unspoken communication between us, that we're on the same page. It's like we're doing little like high fives to each other, and I just feel like it's always so nice to get that sense of engagement and connection with you. And as an added bonus, it's also really supportive to my channel when people engage with my content. So if you want to say thank you and just let me know you're here, definitely leave me a little heart comment below. You can also, and I would love to hear from you about your thoughts on the reading. So if you want to let me know your thoughts in a comment or some feedback, I would love to hear from you about that as well. Sending you such a big hug. I hope you take care of yourselves and have an amazing month, Libra. I will talk to you soon. Bye.